How's everyone doing? I'm Chris Lopez, your union brother on TikTok, Instagram, all the platforms, and we have a special guest today. And anyway, this is kind of exciting because this is going to be our first candidate in our new studio. And what do we got here? We got Organizing Monster.
Hey, everybody, Organizing Monster here. Thank you for joining us on another episode of Union or Bust, hottest labor podcast. But here we got a special guest. We have Gracie Torres. She's running for county supervisor in Riverside County in California. Hey, Gracie, thanks for joining us.
Hi, everyone. My name is Gracie Torres. As mentioned, I'm running for Riverside County Board of Supervisors. It's where I live, where I love, where I'm raising my kids. And so I'm excited to be here, ready to chat this out.
Tell us a little about yourself. You're like, I guess you're our first candidate in our new studio, and you're like the ambassador from Riverside. So tell us a little about yourself. Tell us a little about your community. What's the political landscape like?
Okay. Yeah, absolutely. So just about me, my family actually immigrated here from Durango, Mexico in 1990. So we've been here a while. But I grew up in Riverside. That's where we landed. That's the place that accepted us and raised us. I'm a proud graduate of the Riverside Unified School District, which just passed its first PLA ever, one of the largest PLAs in the city. Oh, wow. And that took a lot of work. I hope we get a chance to talk about that because we were hands-on. And I grew up there, went to Riverside Community College, ended up transferring to Cal State San Bernardino, which is the neighboring county. I joke, but I always say that my heart's in Riverside, but my brain is from San Bernardino. I don't know if that's a good thing or not. But.
That makes sense.
But I have a degree in chemistry and biochemistry, and I have a master's degree in environmental science, and now I'm working on my doctorate in public administration. But really, like, my passion is water. I've done everything possible in water. I've tested it in a test tube. I have, worked on stormwater. I've actually, like, the rains that you saw, I would have been out in the rain, capturing stormwater to see if the quality is right. I've done compliance. Now where I work for flood control. And so I help with federal grant funding so that we can get better infrastructure, especially drainage infrastructure, in the county of Riverside. And I've been with the county for 10 years. I'm a union member, was formerly LIUNA 777. Now I'm SEIU 721. And then I got the chance to run for a water board seat. It was 2018. There was a lot of, well, you guys probably saw it more, but there was, all these awful things happening at the border. And as somebody that was formerly undocumented, I didn't like it. So I try to get involved as much as I can, as much as I could. Before I was just this huge nerd, right? Just this chemist. And I started, translating at ICE hearings. I was just really trying to get involved. And I met a few people. Actually, one of my really good friends, Maha, called me. She's like, hey, you're a water chemist. You should run for the water board. There's an open seat. And I was like, okay, I'll do it. So I signed up, I ran, and it was literally just me and my husband and my kids walking. I didn't know what the heck I was doing in this campaign, but we were just knocking on doors and telling people I'm a water chemist and I'm running for the water board. And we won by 25% margin.
Wow.
Yeah.
Was that the first race
I
you ever ran in?
Ever. I had no clue what I was doing. I had people like Ariana, coming in and helping out. And but it was like literally the most grassroots. I think we had about $3,000 raised total in the entire race, and I was outraised by my opponents. They collectively had about 100,000. Actually, one of my opponents was a vice president of a union, so it was like hard to be like, I'm also like very pro-union, right?
Yeah.
But we ended up, now he's one of my really good friends. We work together very closely. But yeah, we won, and that's kind of when I got to work in politics and learn how hard it is in communities. And I think when you talk about like the political landscape, I think my biggest focus has been bringing community in. It's been a frustration to sit on a board that thinks that because we're elected officials, we're like gods,
Mhm.
like I'm an elected official. You better say my name while we're at this event,
Mhm.
and to me that's been super frustrating. But I've tried to just come in with the community lens. I don't take a vote without talking to the community impacted. Agree or not, we might not agree like idealistically, but if my community tells me I need to do something, my mind frame is you're my boss. Like you guys voted for me to represent you. It's not the other way around. And so that's really what I've tried to do is just have this community ideology while in office. And then, I ran for re-election 2022. In that time, I can say a lot, so please stop me.
Yeah, go for it.
No, go for it.
Yeah, go for it. We'll edit it.
Okay, I was like, I
We'll
just
cut
can
it.
talk forever.
Yeah, no,
Um,
trust me, Chris can talk forever too.
Okay,
Yeah,
noted.
yeah.
But no, we.
So you can't wait to jump in there.
I know. I can see him. I'm like, should I stop? Should I?
He's already down there.
Well, I was gonna
That
say,
monster.
I was gonna say
That poor monster. Poor monster.
I was gonna say when I first took chemistry, I got a D plus, and then I retook it,
Yeah.
and I got an A, and then
Okay.
I took it again in college. So I mean, I think chemistry is like one of the most interesting subjects, but
I felt
It's
I
it's
felt it.
meant to weed people out. Because it's actually fairly simple. Chemistry is not hard. It's
Really?
easy. It's
I
just a
was
lot of
pretty
math.
Smart.
6.02 times 10 to the 23rd
It's a mole.
is a mole.
That's right.
And is the atomic weight. Let me just make sure if I
Yes.
remember. So in the periodic table,
Mhm.
it says 1.0 for like hydrogen, right?
Hydrogen.
And that's a mole, right?
Right.
Hey,
It has one mole.
hey,
Chris,
hey,
what the
you
fuck?
see
You've
this?
known this whole time?
Hey, I'm vibing here. Okay,
Jesus
that's why I wanted to
Christ.
step in.
All we talk about is unions. I don't know you.
You don't know any stuff.
No.
hey, I know.
Science to me is like Neil deGrasse Tyson. That's where I stop.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, like
Yeah.
I don't even know anything else. Yeah, I was like,
Well, now you got
biology
me.
is barely there. Biology, the only thing I remember from biology is like, in order for the rest of the world to live like the U.S. lives, we need 375 Earths.
That's
Is that true?
correct. Yeah, that's correct.
Wow.
Because
Hey,
we're
right?
gonna. That's right. That's water.
Is that water?
Water.
That's hey, I
Yeah, it looks
remember.
like water.
Oxygen's a little bigger,
Oh,
but
oh,
ultimately
okay.
by 16
So
times.
we can draw that a little bigger.
There you go.
But there's if
That's water.
this is kind of interesting, and because that's the way it's set up, and if it was a different way, we'd be all breathing a lot differently, right?
That's right.
It's so.
Well, you know what? Well, if we're gonna get into cool facts about water, you got
Cool
you know what?
facts is
My
the-
campaign
Yeah.
manager would literally choke me right now. He hates it when I get all nerdy.
I
on-
want to hear it. I
But-
want to hear it.
Okay, because nobody really like. When I learned this myself, like it blows my mind. So you know how when you freeze water, it floats, right?
Mhm.
It's actually like it floats. Any other element, any other molecule, when you freeze it and you condense it, it gets heavier than its liquid form, so it
Mhm.
sinks. Well, with water, let's say you're in a lake, right? You have this big lake. It's got fish in there. It's got plants in there. If it reacted the same way as every other molecule, element, liquid, whatever, and it froze and sunk at the bottom, life couldn't exist. So the fact that it floats, the fact that it no matter what, it's going to get lighter and it's going to go up, is the only reason that that life exists on this planet. Which is why it's so
Mm.
important to find water on Mars and all that, because it's not because we can consume it, it's not because of the oxygen, it's because of that density
Yeah.
value.
Like,
It would kill all the animals if it
because
froze.
when it freezes, it expands, right?
Right, and so it gets a little lighter.
But like it's lighter.
Yeah, it gets a little lighter and it floats, and that's why
Mm,
you go ice fishing. You have this big layer of ice, but
Mm,
underneath it's
there's-
water.
right.
Where if it was any other liquid, it would freeze at the
Because
bottom.
water is the most dense liquid, right? Like
It's the least dense.
water itself is the least dense.
Water has a density of I think 1 point something, but when it freezes, it gets
less dense.
less dense, which
Yeah,
is
it
uncommon.
expands.
Right.
Dude, our viewers are like,
Hey,
"What the
look.
fuck is I signed up for?
Hey, look.
It's not what I signed up for."
I'm showing.
If
They're
I
like-
had a whiteboard,
I'm
I
showing
want to
I'd be
hear
all
about
over
a
it.
Yahtzee.
Yeah, I'm
I want to
showing
hear
up.
about. I'm just kidding.
Okay, hey.
No, they love this kind of stuff because
But it blows my mind because people are like, "Well, you got to be able to drink it." And yes, drinking water is important, but the reason we have life on Earth is because the water does not freeze and sink.
Hey, Juan, if you want to remember this, Mickey Mouse ears.
That's right.
Well, I know what H2O is. It's H, so it's 2 molecules of H, so that's why it's H2, and then an O, oxygen, is 1 molecule of oxygen. Yeah,
That's right.
dude, what the fuck?
And I have a lot more cool facts if we end up getting
I was
to
an
a lull
avid
in this
student.
conversation.
Is that the word we use? Avid in high school?
Okay,
I was
that's cool.
avid, and I failed all of them, but I was a student in there.
But you know what? Avid really changed the way Latinos and low-income families saw education. It's probably one of the most important programs that has ever been ran.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, I believe that. I try to get my kids, and then they're like, "Well, you both went to college," and I was like, "Okay." So, but it's such an important program. It starts slowly, giving that equitable divide, closing that gap. Yeah.
Yeah. No, I'm a big fan.
Yeah, well, let's. Well, we now
Back to
know.
it.
We can talk about water.
that I know what
all day.
6.02 times 10 is way there. Anyway, but tell us, like, you're running for the county board of supervisors. What, I know a little, but there's a lot of people probably don't know exactly what the county board of supervisors does.
Sure.
So tell us, like, the authority that
Sure.
the county board.
So I recognized this during COVID, actually, but just like on very plain terms, those who own homes, those who own property, pay property taxes. The board of supervisors manages that money. They say, where is it going to go? Is it going to go into animal services, or is it going to go into the Department of Social Services for children or people? Is it going to go into flood control? And so that's what the board does. Also, when let's say and this is what I was mentioning about COVID, I remember the frustration, why isn't the state doing anything? Why isn't the Congress doing anything? Because they don't have the authority, right? I mean, we know this about local politics, yeah. If you're a congressman and you want $1 million for the city of Riverside, you have to convince 235 people to give you $1 million. Much, obviously, for a 10 million, it's different.
I never thought about it that way.
Yeah, just for your city, I want $1 million.
Yeah.
You need 235 people to vote yes.
Oh,
right?
shit.
How hard is that?
Yeah, I never thought about it that way.
And
honestly,
then you go to the state assembly, and you need whatever 65 people to say yes, I will give you $1 million for the city of Riverside. You go to the board of supervisors, you go to a water board, you go to a city council, and you say, we want $1 million for the city of Riverside, or a road, or whatever, and you just have to convince 2 people or 3 people, depending on the size of your board, right? And so I went during COVID, when it was like nothing was happening fast enough at the state level. What we realized is all the power is at the board of supervisors. They were the ones that said, hey, the state is soon going to give us some type of COVID relief. In the meantime, this is how we're going to handle vaccines. This is how we're going to handle, moratoriums for rent, for evictions, for water, this is how we're going to handle these things. It was your boards of supervisor, your city councils that had the actual power to take care of you during this emergency crisis. And so when I learned that, we're like, that's where we need to go next. And so someone's retiring from the board of supervisors, and with redistricting after census, it became the first Latino majority minority district, which means it's the only district that has more Latino voters than any other demographic. It has the most women. Right now the women population is a little higher than men, so it has the most women. But
we do dumb shit.
But what matters more, and the reason, I mean, maybe.
Look at us, like we're
I'm drinking water, y'all.
Yeah, exactly.
That's why you need universal health care, because of this.
We have to be taking care of that kidney for a long time.
Damn.
She'll probably tell me how it reacts.
But what matters most to me and you guys is that it has the most working class families. That district alone. So when we saw that, we saw the power and I guess, oh my gosh, not the power, but the influence that the county supervisor has. We're like, that's our seat.
I think that's really interesting how you put a spotlight, because, people like, hey, this person needs to do something. This person needs to do something. But you're putting like a spotlight on authority. Yeah. There's a system in place that's decentralized in a way where if you want to have impact, take care of it at the local level. Yep. You have much more impact. You only convince 2 people that you need to do something. And I think sometimes during politics, people go, oh, the president's got to do this. Oh, Congress. It's not like that. Yeah. There's specific powers granted to local governments to take care of things.
So that Have you heard about what's going on here in the in Imperial Beach with the water and the beaches and
Yeah.
the TJ River water coming this way
Right,
and
right.
it polluting all kinds of things?
Mhm.
And we have the mayor here, Paloma. Shout out Paloma.
Hey, Paloma.
Paloma. She went to Washington D.C. She's trying to get money from the government, make it a state of emergency kind of deal.
Sure.
But I didn't. Me here locally, I didn't think about it that way. Like you have to convince this many people to,
Mhm.
and because I'm thinking like, why is it so hard to like? Everybody knows what San Diego is. Everybody knows what TJ is. Like, why is it so hard to get some attention down here? And she's out there having to fight for it. And then to me, it doesn't make any sense.
Right.
But I guess it does now.
Yeah, there's 435. God, the ticket is
We'll
civic
cut it out.
excess. But yeah,
We'll put
however many congressional members, each of them are coming from a district that needs $1 million, that has
Exactly.
their own issue,
Mhm.
right? And because I remember when I first got elected on the water board, people would be like, yeah, I mean, did you see what happened in Flint? And I'd be like, our backyard has polluted water. Our backyard has bad piping. Our backyard has these problems. So every congressional member has the same type of story.
Right.
So they have to get up there and they have to try to convince 235 people to say, yeah, I'm going to vote for that.
Perfect. I want to go back to the landscape question real quick. Landscape also, like, what's the board look like?
The Board of Supervisors?
Mhm.
Man, so we have five supervisors. Mine is the central of Riverside County. So we have the city of
Mhm.
Riverside. We have the city of Paris and a small sliver of Rupa Valley, and then some unincorporated Good Hope, Meadowview, Mead Valley areas. And that's like the heart, right? Where like the most population is. Then we have District 2, which is like Corona, Temecula, Corona, Temescal, Lake Elsinore. So it's very, very conservative.
Mhm.
The way things were redrawn, it'll probably stay like that for a very long time. Just very conservative. District 3 is actually here closer to you guys, the Temecula area, Rainbow, all those areas. And then you go towards Coachella. So if you know about Riverside County, it's, Corona, if you know where Corona is,
Mhm.
all the way to Imperial Valley, basically getting to Arizona. It's
Oh,
huge.
wow.
It's the size of New Jersey. Essentially, it's a big county, and so that supervisor, District 4, he has all of that. It has the Coachella, like
Mhm.
it has Mecca, Oasis, Palm Springs, the desert areas, and then we have the like mountain areas, so like Banning, Beaumont. So our supervisors, let's see. So we have. I mean, do I have to talk about
Are
them?
they all Republican or what's going on?
Yeah, we have 3 Democrats now on that board, 2 of which were appointed, and one that's like probably about to lose a seat, the one in Temecula.
Gotcha.
Well, look, one of the good things about the labor movement right now, it's the approval of labor unions right now is 71%.
Mhm.
It's the highest since 1965. And that is not just one party.
Right.
It's kind of everyone coming together, realizing, hey, people are having trouble paying their rent.
Right.
People are having trouble paying their bills. People are kind of realizing, we always talk crap about mainstream media, but on this podcast, we like to make the main thing is to keep the main thing, kitchen table economics. And
everyone sees it the same,
right
at that level. Like I was talking to Ariana on the way here, and she was saying that she shops in a different city for her groceries to avoid potholes. So I mean, although that seems like such a small problem, do you realize how many people out there probably do the same thing, that are avoiding potholes or avoiding popping their tires, and just so that they can grocery shop and then not have a huge tire bill? It seems like such a small issue, but like right now everyone's in this survival mode. Does it? Right? We're in survival mode. Like, how will I survive if I have to avoid popping my tires by avoiding potholes? Then because I'm trying to drop $1,000 on these tires, then I'm gonna go shop at a different grocery store. And everyone, doesn't matter your race, it doesn't matter your political leaning, everyone's feeling this pain.
Yeah. So my
Everyone.
first experience, like really getting to see that everybody's feeling the same way, like you said, and everybody, once you break through the Democrat, Republican, red, blue kind of talking points, then you start agreeing on things. When I used to work at the Labor Council, they sent me to Missouri to canvass a right to work legislation
Sure.
because it passed. And then the new measure was going to take it out, basically. And we won. We won by 75% or something like that.
Mhm.
And I would be knocking on doors like with Trump flag. This was 2018.
Sure.
Trump flags, Confederate flags. And I was like, dude, look at me. Mexican short bald guy. And like they're going to, I thought they were going to lynch my ass. But no, people, once I never spoke about Obama or Trump or Biden or anything like that. I would just start talking about working class issues. And people in the Midwest, they like labor and unions is in their blood, is in their DNA because of the manufacturing, GM, Ford, all those plants that a lot of them got shut down in the 90s. So they understand unions. So once I said, oh yeah, I'm from the unions, then boom, they would let me into their house, would give me water. And then, but I went in there with the mindset like, these people are gonna,
it gets scary, right?
Yeah.
And I remember my first campaign too. Well, it was interesting because I remember thinking like, yeah, I'm focused on water. I'm a water chemist, right? So there'd be two things that would always shock me.
H2O.
H2O.
That's right.
Dihydrogen oxide.
Is that how you pronounce it?
Yeah.
Okay.
Hydrogen, no.
Dihydrogen
oxide.
But you don't want to say that.
Okay.
Well, they're not going to
Okay.
talking about.
But the two things I would get at the door most of the time would be like, you're a water chemist, absolutely, let's go. And then I'd get like, what's your political leaning? And I'd be like, doesn't matter, I'm gonna lower your water rates. Like what, like why does that matter? And then sometimes I would get like, well, are you married? Do you have a family? Are you taking care of your family? And I'd be like, but I just told you I'm qualified, right? But ultimately, like, people care about the same things, and so running for supervisor, we're trying to focus on that. We're trying to like, yeah, and I mean, my political leaning doesn't matter because, and just like vice versa, in that conversation, everyone's feeling the same frustration with the parties too. Like if you're looking at it the opposite way, we also have Republicans and Democrats that aren't listening to their communities, that aren't doing what, and it doesn't matter what party they are, people are not being heard.
Mhm.
People are hurting, they're not being heard. And so across the board, you feel this frustration. And what people want to know is that they have a leader that's not going to do that, that's going to listen to them, that's feeling the same pain, that they're feeling.
Well, before we started, we were like talking before the podcast, we were talking about how issues, controversial social issues that no one's ever going to agree on. But if people get so ramped up on these social issues and distracted, and then pretty soon they've raised the Social Security retirement age.
Right.
Right. And I think there's a system in place, and I think a lot of political parties play the game where, hey, let's just keep them distracted with this wheel spinning around. But right now, people are having trouble paying for healthcare.
Right.
Yeah, divide and conquer is what they use to divide us from back in the day with the slaves and the poor whites to now, to separate people, working class people, from organizing, from joining forces and realizing that we have more in common. For example, just yesterday, Rudy, I'm gonna dime you out. Rudy's my coworker. I'm gonna dime him out a little bit. We were talking. We're doing site visits. And then we were talking about like immigration and all kinds of shit, like randomly. I was like, cool. And then he started going a little bit with his conversation, a little bit conservative-ish, which I have no problem. I'm all over the spectrum, honestly. I'm pretty conservative. I'm a progressive when it comes to like Medicare for all, unions for all, everybody deserves livable wages kind of things. But I'm also conservative because I was in the Marines and I have that mindset too. But then he started talking about immigration, how immigrants and then like Fox News talking points kind of deal.
Yeah.
And I'm like, Rude, let's stop right here, dude. Like, I'm literally an immigrant. You're talking to somebody.
Yeah.
I came here illegally. I tell everybody I came here illegally, 2 years old, so I had no choice in the matter. But I told him, like, dude, I think a lot of this stuff is just meant to divide us, don't you think? Kind of like what they're doing with our workers in the field. They're just dividing them so that they don't join forces to get a better contract. That's what they're doing with you. And he's like, what do you mean? And I told him, like, check it out. Instead of focusing on that kind of language and that kind of argument, I like to focus on what creates immigration. Right. Why are the people immigrating to the U.S. so much? Right. Do you think these bombs that we're dropping all over the Middle East, is it setting anything on fire? Or are people going to react, let's not go somewhere else? Or they're going to try to immigrate? Right. When we send the food companies down south to these Latin American countries. Do you think when we're messing them around and doing coups in their governments and creating these chaos and these drug wars down there, is it going to create immigration? Or do you think people are saying, oh, this is kind of cool, I'm going to stay here?
Right.
It's going to create immigration.
Mm.
So that's what I'd like to tackle as the core issues. Speaking of core issues, homelessness.
It's a big one.
It's a big one, right? Here in San Diego, it's only getting worse. And I don't blame the homeless people for coming to San Diego from other places around the country.
I mean, San Diego's beautiful.
I know, I've been on the beach. But still, like if you're in Boston or Chicago and try to survive in those,
the cold.
yeah, here in San Diego, you can survive. So, policy wise, like, what do you have any ideas on how to
I do.
help the homeless crisis?
I wish I would have brought you guys my literature, but one of the things that through all my campaigns that I've been a huge proponent on is job creation, workforce development, which is why
Oh, nice.
that's honestly like my biggest talking point. So during COVID, a friend of mine got together and we started this nonprofit that has an apprenticeship program to get people into water jobs at our community, training them, certifying them, getting them through and then placed. So now as a county supervisor, I want to do the same thing. I honestly believe that the way to solve homelessness is through job creation and putting money in people's pockets.
I agree. Yeah, we
That-
solved it. That's it.
But I get this question all the time. I was talking to a lady on the phone, and she was like, you get these like short-term like Band-Aid solutions, right? You get a bed for 3 days, you get this for 3 days, you get storage for 3 days. Whatever the case is, it's not solving the issue. You need to put money in people's pockets while at the same time addressing mental health, addressing housing. But if you're only focused on that one like a siloed solution, it's not going to happen. I truly believe that job creation, it solves homelessness, it solves housing, it solves market stability, but good paying jobs,
Yeah.
right? Because in the Inland Empire, one of the issues we have is like warehousing, which is great. Like it's great because it does create jobs, but we need union jobs. We need jobs that are paying you well so that we don't continue this cycle of of people working temporarily, then leaving their work and still looking and so I'm just a huge proponent of job creation.
So it's like 60% of Americans are living paycheck to paycheck.
Yeah.
Isn't that right?
Yeah.
So and the number one cause of bankruptcy in this country is like catastrophic accident.
Right.
So I really liked what you talked about in the beginning of the podcast about like authority, because I think people, it's so big, government's big, but it's also decentralized.
Right.
So let's say we want money. We get to the county board of supervisors. So what could we do? Like if you could wave a magic wand, what would you do if you got all the votes? What would you do? Like what kind of legislation would you say would be the first thing you do?
Well, I mentioned it. Job creation is the first one. I've been saying this at the water district, just in the water industry. So at the county level, there is no reason that a high school student can't graduate high school and have had some type of apprenticeship program that leads them into a county job, into a trade, into even working in a college, right? There's no reason working at like RCC or Riverside Community College. There's no reason that you don't come out of high school with some type of skill. Right. And there are plenty of county jobs. There are plenty of trades willing to train you to do that. We just don't have those partnerships leveled out. Not in Riverside County yet. Right.
That's really interesting because we had Carol Kim, who's head of the building trades here in San Diego.
Okay.
Shout out
Hey,
Carol Kim.
Yep.
Anyway, and I didn't know this until she was on our podcast, but they will pay you to train.
Yes. Yes,
They
you earn while
pay
you learn.
And so, it's like what I learned when I was growing up and you went to school, you went to college, you got into debt. You're not guaranteed a job, but she said on the podcast where you get paid to train and you're guaranteed a job.
Right.
So I think a lot of these are systemic problems. Like, put spotlight on, okay, what is actually the problem? And I think this is good conversation.
Yeah.
It really is.
So that's one of the things. And in the county of Riverside, like county employees, because I am one, we have a 30% deficit in employees. That means that's how many people we need. So if you're looking at Child Protective Services, I'm sure you guys heard the story out in Riverside County of the family that had like 12 kids living in their homes locked up. Oh, it's on 60 Minutes. You should look it up. It is.
I don't watch TV. Or
our
I don't watch
pride point. But no, I mean.
Oh, you were on it?
No, I was not.
Oh.
I was not. But
That's okay.
It was a huge deal. It was a Child Protective Services problem, right? And we've seen those stories everywhere, right? Where caseworkers are overworked and underpaid. So they have where, they could probably handle 20 cases in a year or a month. I'm not a social worker, so I can't explain it well. But they've got 3 times the load. So things are falling through the cracks, and you have these, families that are, that are not taking care of the kids. But with the 30% deficit in employees, like, of course, you're going to have things falling through the cracks in every department. Animal services, again, flood control. Like, you're not meeting the services that our property taxes say are going to get paid. You're not actually meeting those services. One of the things in Riverside County, we have, in the last 5 years, we've spent $5 billion on contracting services, right? When you can,
Because you don't have the employees.
because 1, we don't have the employees, but 2, I mean, you can't find a web designer. You have to hire a company out of LA to design our website. Like, just different things. When we can hire them here, make sure they're in a union, they're taken care of, they're getting good benefits. Instead, they would rather pay a consultant to take care of this issue. And that's one thing that's like day one going to be readdressed and divested from.
It's like tripping over a dollar to save a nickel.
Right. And go ahead.
I'll go for.
Oh no, and then the second thing is infrastructure. I happen to be an infrastructure expert. It's what I've been doing for the last 10 years. I want to make sure that people are driving to Riverside grocery stores, UFCW Riverside
right.
grocery stores, and buying there rather than going to another city to buy their groceries because our pothole issues are so awful. Same thing, because those things are contracted out that by contractors that don't do a good job, rather than union contractors that are on time and under budget, right? And so
PLA.
that's right, PLA.
I know a little bit about that. What does PLA stand for, Chris?
Oh gosh, now you're gonna like, is it?
Oh,
is it,
because
is it? Oh no, because of this.
Oh, you know H2O, but you don't know what PLA is.
Isn't it called a peace labor agreement?
Project
labor agreement.
Yeah.
Okay.
There you go.
There's
We're gonna keep that in.
Look
Okay.
at us.
Yeah, see? We're gonna keep that in.
Cut that out.
Ricardo, do that shit in.
Yeah, you gotta come on. You gotta get the candidate correcting you and
What the fuck? You make us look bad.
out union language.
Jesus Christ. Speaking of policies, though, like a month ago, we had an episode and we brought on a couple people, somebody from CNA and somebody from Hollywood for CalCare.
Okay.
They're pushing universal health care here in
Right.
California. Our boy Gavin Newsom, shout out Gavin Newsom, dude.
Oh, yeah.
Gavin Newsom's our
Hey.
boy. We're all blaming him for shit that he didn't even do
Right.
in that episode. Like, it was like under Arnold, and it was funny. But yeah, they're really making an effort to push CalCare. They got introduced, I think, this month in
Yeah.
February.
Mhm.
And we're big old universal healthcare supporters. Bernie ran on it,
Right.
Medicare for All. That's where I started understanding what it was. Where do you stand on that? Where are you at with
I mean, we're so
universal?
behind, and we don't just need universal. We need single payer healthcare, and this and the state and this country. I mean, I'll keep going, but
No, keep going.
yeah, we absolutely
Why?
need it.
I mean,
Why do we? I
yeah,
mean,
like what?
my
what-
my paycheck right now, half of it goes to medical bill, like not medical bills, medical
Insurance.
insurance,
Yeah.
medical insurance. I could very much use that other half of that check
Right.
to take care of my family. I have 2 degrees. I am working on my doctorate, and I am living paycheck to paycheck, just like everyone else.
Mhm.
And my employer is barely matching because for the same reason, the county of Riverside doesn't have all the money in the world to pay everyone's
Mhm.
insurances, and that's the same for small businesses. That's the same for that they don't have all the money in the world to take care of that. We need universal health care to take care of that.
And
And that, how much would that alleviate? Like how it's like I'm thinking of all the money that would become available in local governments and businesses and families if we took care of that portion, like every other
yeah,
country.
we went ham on
Organized
that issue for
country.
sure in that episode, and we talked about my angle is always organizing in unions. It'll make it easier.
Right.
Workers, because healthcare is like a thing that employers hang over your head.
Right.
Like, oh, you're gonna quit. Well, they don't have to say it, but you feel like, damn, if I quit, or if I go on the picket, or if I strike, then I'm gonna lose my healthcare. And then what? Like
Right.
you said, like everybody needs healthcare, especially if you're sick or if you need it, right? So they hold that over your head. But if you didn't have to worry about that, if healthcare wasn't attached to your employer, then you're more likely to go on strike. You're more likely to fight for something you believe in
Right.
and put it on the line. Because if you get fired or whatever, you still have health care.
Yeah.
So
And
yeah.
again, just the like economically speaking, your microeconomics, right? Your families and the big one. It's the how you're supposed to go. But I mean, Gavin Newsom like talks about it, but he's been there for 6 years and we can't get any legislation, and we have a super majority.
Mhm.
You know, that's for me that's rough.
Yeah, Max
Mhm.
Cotterill was from the California Nurses Union. Shout out, Max. He brought up something that I thought was really, really interesting, and I never looked at it this way. But during COVID, during COVID-19, less people were going to the doctor because of
We
the
were all
pan-
scared,
we were
and
all
we were
scared.
home
No,
taking care of ourselves.
the insurance companies made record profits during that time. So the way the system's set up is the fact that people were not going to the doctor, getting their basic needs taken care of. They were making trillions
Right.
during this time,
Right.
billions,
Because they weren't paying out.
because they
Mhm.
weren't paying. They weren't paying out.
Right.
So we have a system in place when and then Caroline Reardon, she said that they had is it Cigna Health? They had AI denying healthcare
Yeah, they have
automatically.
Oh wow.
And so,
Mhm.
denying claims automatically. And that's a system we're set up where you deny care. And when there's a pandemic and people are suffering, healthcare companies make the most. So right now, I got 3 words: eat the rich.
Eat the rich. 100%.
That surprised me. I thought you were gonna say something. I thought you were gonna say something like, "What the fuck?" We've never said that on this podcast. But no, yeah, like we went hard on that episode about Medicare for All and CalCare because, like, okay, and I'm gonna drop it again. When I talk to other union people, they've told me like, "Wow, but they use it like an employer.
Sure.
We use healthcare to organize.
Yeah.
Hey, you want healthcare? Join the union."
Yeah.
And I'm like, nah, dude, it shouldn't be that way. Why? Then we're nothing better than an employer doing it. And most people are not in the union. What about the 90% that are not in the union?
Right.
Just screw them over too.
Right.
And even if you have health care, it doesn't mean that it's going to cover everything. You're still screwed. When we went to Big Bear, for my birthday in January. We always go every year. And we snowboard. We took my girlfriend's sister's boyfriend, big old white dude, and he ate it. He ate it pretty bad. He fucked up his shoulder and his elbow, like on his first hill.
You start laughing.
Yeah, and because it's first time snowboarding, first time everything, first slope. And then it was funny because we fell out, we jumped off the lift, and then he ate it, and I waited for him for like 20 minutes, and I went down, I came back up, and he started going down. We saw him, and I'm like, Dakota. His name is Dakota. Dakota. And he's like, hey, what's up? And then boom, he hits it again. And then we come back down, and he's like, dude, I'm fucked, dude. My shoulder broke, I think.
Yeah.
And then we took him to urgent care, but his first thought was like, I don't want to go because what if I'm out of network? That's the first thing that comes to his head when he's in pain. And I was like, that shouldn't even be a thing.
That shouldn't be a thought. Like you go any other developed country is taking care of their freaking residents, and we can't get that same. My mom's going through some health things right now too, and I'm like, Mom, go to Kaiser, and she's like, but I don't like Kaiser, and just the fact that we're having that conversation is so annoying, and quite frankly, like most people don't even know how to have that conversation. Like
Mm.
think of how many people are like, well, like if I have an HMO and like they're over here doing like math to
Mhm.
figure out if they're gonna be okay. That's wild.
Yeah, we had an episode last year, and the social media one, and we had the person from Canada.
Oh
on.
yeah.
She does videos on TikTok. She
Union
dances.
Maid.
Union Maid, shut up.
Okay.
She like dances.
Union
to,
Maid
like,
from BC.
there you go.
Uh-huh.
And then, but does like labor stuff, labor facts.
Mhm.
And then she was talking to us like, dude, you guys are over here arguing if you should have healthcare or not. We're over here arguing if we should cover this other thing or not. It's so backwards, and we're like the number one country in the world, and but we can beat this topic up
But
forever.
it's the United States is the number one. It's the biggest economy in the world, but California is the fourth
Largest economy.
So again, I'm gonna go back to we have a super majority. We have this governor, and it hasn't happened.
So why do you think it hasn't happened yet?
Lobbies? Period.
Mhm.
Like why most things don't happen is because of corporations, and we just don't have the political freaking courage to do it.
You think most politicians are cowards?
Yeah, which is why I'm running. I mean, I was talking to a community the other day. You know, they're out here, the Palestinian community, just being like, please just call for peace. And everyone's up there like, oh, I don't know if I, and it's like, how are you like, you're listening to people tell you their family is dying across the world, and you can't just sign a piece of paper say, please give us peace.
Yeah, what if this is happening in
This is
Mexico? What if this
wild.
was happening,
Right.
where it's just, kids are dying.
Right.
And I don't know what the body count. I mean, just how
I think like 30,000 at this point.
Yeah.
I mean, we're talking about babies.
Yeah. And don't get me wrong, I feel it. I feel the backlash, right? I mean, I'm running against the people with a ton of money that have been sold out, and I feel it. Like I feel like if I say something, I'm gonna get the back. But why am I doing this? Like, why am I sacrificing all this time away from my kids, all this time fighting for my community? Like, why have I done all of this to then be a coward? It's wild.
Yeah. When I started in labor, I started in labor in 2018. So I've been in for like 6 years at the Labor Council and now here. And the whole time that we've been here has been pissing people off, like leadership and stuff. Like since we started the podcast, all we do is talk shit. Gavin Newsom, Biden, everybody, Trump. But we feel like, well, if you're doing the right thing, then who cares if they fire my ass at this point? Like, let them fire me.
Don't fire him. Don't fire him.
Yeah,
Keep
no,
both of them.
no, I mean, we don't want to get fired, but I'm saying
No,
like
but
I'm
you're
not.
right. What's
But you
the
know what I mean? What's the
point?
point in all of this? I just get a corporate gig then at that point.
Yeah.
But that's the beauty of it, though. Like we have this podcast and we're growing our platform to where we go anywhere in like the delegates meetings, anything that has to do with labor, the real ones, they're there. Like our real supporters. Just a couple of weeks ago, speaking of healthcare, my friend in January, that weekend we went to Big Bear. I woke up when we came back Monday morning at 3 a.m. to a text from my friend, a really good friend. And then I opened it up and it was his wife texting me though. And she's all like, hey, Jose is in the hospital. Just wanted to give you a heads up. He got ran over and he's in the hospital right now. So I was like, what the fuck? So then I went to the hospital on Monday morning or in that morning and I went to go see him. And yeah, like he got his spine broken when he got ran over. So he's paralyzed from the neck down. He was intubated. So they did the surgery that day, like an emergency surgery for his spine. And they're like, well, we don't know what's going to happen. It's like kind of like 50-50 if he's going to be able to move again. But I decided to throw him a fundraiser here outside. I got my friends together. Oh, you saw it? Yeah, there you go. And then, like my friend from National City, Jose, the council member, I always ask him, hey, can you come out and do tacos? Because he has a flat grill and he loves to cook. He loves to freaking cook. Yeah, it says Jose Rodriguez on the grill. Like he just loves to cook. And and then he came out and he donated the food. He donated everything, his services, and I helped him out a little bit. Then my coworker, Sarah, she's awesome too. And she makes the best tamales. I swear to God. Like it's like she puts crack in them.
Okay.
Yeah, Coke, or I don't know what she puts in them. But I asked her to make 100. My goal was to get 100 people to turn out and to fundraise $2,500 because that's $25 per person. And we had over 100 people show up. Wow. The tamales went first.
Of course.
I swear to God. And then Chris, like we're already running low.
See what he does to me?
Yeah. This motherfucker lines up. I haven't eaten because I'm like, no, let's fundraise so we can. And this motherfucker lines up. And I'm like, Chris, what the fuck are you doing? He's like, I'm hungry.
First of all, it said all you can eat tamales and tacos. Okay.
Yeah.
So I donated.
Yeah.
Okay.
Then he comes back.
It's all you can eat.
Yeah.
I told him, I go, look, don't say it's all you can eat.
Yeah. So he came back because he loved them so much.
gosh,
Yeah.
there we go.
So, but the point of the story is that we threw a fundraiser for him, and the people that were there, they all donated their time. Who knows how long it took her to put all those tamales together to prep them. I cooked them the night before. But then we had all people from labor out here just donating more than $25, and they would just get like one tamale or whatever because they were just here to support. So that's the beauty of it, though. Like, we talk a lot of shit. We stick our necks out, but the real people do come out eventually, and they're here to support us.
Because we're all going through the same stuff.
Exactly.
Like, I think that's like you said, that's the whole point is that we're all going through the same thing.
Solidarity.
That's right.
And I think that's what's going on right now. This word is bringing the whole labor movement together.
Mhm.
And it's putting that spotlight on the fact that people can't afford health care or getting ripped off. You talk about your paycheck, but it's the way it's set up, denying care, $1 trillion. I mean, look at the homeless crisis right now. That's the fruits of having billionaires.
Yeah. Labor, we've gone on more strikes in the past 5 years than the past 60
It was a
years
hot labor
combined.
summer, right?
Yeah.
So when Chris talks about a 71% approval rating, he's not joking. People have had enough. I think the pandemic really put the spotlight on our issues. Maybe corporations don't really care for us. Maybe the tie yourself from the bootstraps or pick yourself
It's not
up.
working.
It's not working for everybody. So that's why labor is coming up. Labor, now it's really cool to wear a union thing.
Yep.
Like, you say union, now people are like, wait, you're just yesterday.
Yeah. Remember that.
Yesterday.
we
We
were
were at the
partying.
bar. We were partying.
Yeah.
We always party on Fridays.
Overslept.
Yeah. And then this
That's
when
the monsters.
yeah, he had a Diet Coke, I had a beer. And then this guy just sitting next to me, I was talking to Chris over here, minding our own business, and he laughs at something I say, and I'm like, "You're listening to us?" And then he's like, "Oh, I'm sorry." And I'm like, "Oh, no, for sure." And then we just started talking, and we started talking to him about us, what we do, the podcast, unions. He's like, "Wait, you guys are in a union?"
Yeah.
That was kind of cool that he said that. I looked at Chris. I'm like, that's right, motherfucker. Yeah. Yeah. And then I told him what we were. He's like, oh, it's hard to get in the union, huh? And I explained how to get in the union. But most people don't know how to get in the union. Right. And so that's why it's our goal or our purpose is to educate everybody that unions exist and you could organize your workplaces. Right. They don't teach this in high schools. My girlfriend's a teacher here in South Bay. And she tells me that school boards like Amazon, Walmart, they invest billions of dollars in school boards. Why? Because then they get to
they have their pipeline.
Exactly. The curriculum on what they get to teach. And then, hey, you're not going to teach how to organize over here, but you're going to teach about, the founding fathers and how America is so great. So imagine if they did teach how to organize.
I didn't know about Cesar Chavez till I was in my 20s. And one, he's a Latino icon. Dolores is a Latina icon, but I had no clue. I knew his name. I had no clue what he did. I didn't understand the boycott. I didn't know anything about La Paz until I was in my 20s.
Wow. Speaking of Cesar Chavez, UFW.
United Food and Commercial.
Right.
Yeah.
United Farm Workers. Hey, sorry, UFW.
Hey, poor monster. You already fucking.
PLA.
Party tour.
Party tour.
Project labor agreement. Okay, you can put that part in.
No, 2 years.
Swap it.
Can you swap that?
2 years ago, they redid the march from Delano all the way to Sacramento. Right. I saw it on Twitter. We're always on social media. I saw it on Twitter, and I'm like, oh, shit. This is tomorrow they're going to start. I told Chris, I'm like, Chris, we have to call off. Yeah. Let's go. Let's join them. He's like, I can't call off this and that. He gives me all these excuses. So I'm like, okay, we're going to plan it.
He didn't know the name of the unit.
Yeah, is this UFCW? Like, why do they have an ego?
They didn't even tell me about it.
Yeah, he's like, they have an ego? We have an ego too.
You organized her.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
I guess you forgot about my chemistry.
Chemistry, dude.
That went out the window.
Yeah.
Hey, union or bust.
That's right. It's all about union. It's not chemistry or bust. Jesus Christ. So,
This is awesome.
UFW,
Mhm.
UFCW, UFW.
United Farm
I saw
Workers.
that and I was like, let's plan to go meet them and start marching with them. This is what they're doing. And he's like, fuck it, let's do it. So we drove 8 hours
That's
to join them in, I already forgot where, up there in
Central Valley for
Central
sure.
Valley,
Mhm.
95-degree weather. And yeah, it was like 23 miles. We were hurting, I'm not gonna lie, but it was awesome. It was like the energy was crazy. The more you walked and people just like clapping and because those areas people know farm workers.
Yes.
Like it's in their blood
Shout
and
out
their
to
DNA.
the Central Valley. They're actually coming out this weekend to canvas with me. They're bringing bands out to
Really?
canvas.
That's what I'm talking
shout
about.
out to Fresno. Shout out to the Central Valley.
And
yeah,
that-
you're right.
And
It's
every
farming- it's
Mexican has some kind of tie to farm workers. My dad came illegally
Yes.
to do farm work, and that's how he started
Same.
here.
My dad didn't, but his brothers were braceros, and they came out and they were farmers. And
Yeah, and then we came out twice, not just once, twice.
that's
When we
dope.
first came out the first time, we were tweeting and supporting them, retweeting them. Nobody was tweeting them like politicians
Right.
or anybody in labor. It was just us. And I told
because
Chris,
we all thought that bill was going to get vetoed.
exactly.
Yeah.
So Chris, I got this.
Not we.
Okay.
I was
Okay, you
I was
got it.
retweeting.
Yeah. So then I told Chris, I'm like, just wait until it gets sanctioned off by the
Mhm.
Democratic Party. Then we're gonna have everybody saying, "Oh, farm workers, Cesar Chavez, this and that." Surely enough, when Nancy Pelosi started tweeting, then everybody followed suit. And then I'm like, "See, Chris, that's why we need this podcast because we're at the tip of the spear. We're gonna take it in the chin for a little bit, but then everybody's gonna follow suit because we're doing the right thing." So then we joined them again in Sacramento. It was It was so
Yeah, I
beautiful. It was
remember.
like tens of thousands of people. You had cholos, you had pachucos, you had farm work. Like it was,
Yeah.
but it was like Mexicans, like
Yeah,
like
Latinos.
yeah,
One of the things I did not understand, it's the bill was to give farm workers the same rights
That's it.
as every other
Yeah.
Union.
every other worker, you
Yeah.
know,
Yeah.
so they can vote by mail, so they
Mhm.
can have the same rights. So I didn't understand what the heck was going on. And when Gavin Newsom, because didn't he veto it?
He vetoed
Like
it the
in
year
the year
before.
before.
So, so we got to get this. That's what this podcast is about. It's getting the spotlight on these things. Because if the politician can veto a bill and people stop talking about it, then that helps. But we're not going to stop talking about how Gavin Newsom vetoed
And that's
strike
when-
benefits.
That's when we
for
called him a
workers.
bitch.
Yeah.
We went live on the drive back and like
Yeah.
this fucking Gavin Newsom better sign this thing, otherwise he's a fucking
Yeah.
bitch.
Yeah.
And then he signed
He
it.
signed it,
Awesome.
but it's pressure.
Yeah.
It's
but
like
the crazy thing is, it doesn't even have to be that way.
yeah.
I say this when when I'm interviewing with for endorsements with unions, I'm
Mhm.
like, and my staff gets mad at me for saying it, but I'm like, you will never have to lobby me. You're never gonna have to come to me and be like, please, Gracie, take care of workers. Like, let's make these consent. You'll never have to do that with me. But for some reason, we continue to endorse the same people that you end up at their offices asking them to please give me pennies, and at some point that needs to flip. Right, we're the ones coming to you for endorsements,
Right.
and somehow you come back and start asking, like, lobbying us. That's
Yeah.
like, it's wild. You need to get people that have that political courage, that already have values, that you don't have to worry about them. You're gonna be like, yeah, oh yeah, we got Gracie up there. We know she's gonna take care of us, and that's the type of people we need. You
Yeah.
don't need to be out here planning Sacramento days because you don't know how this guy who we gave, we double maxed out on in November. We don't know how he's going to vote. How do you not know how he's going to vote? Why didn't you select a union person? Like, why didn't it?
Mhm.
Well, that's my frustration. I can bound in all day.
No, that's what I told our friend that we were on the phone with yesterday. I'm not going to drop her name because of the topic, but that's what I told her. I told her, I think right now what we need is leaders
Yes.
with backbones, because everybody, we're so busy with our lives. We said people work 2 to 3 jobs just to survive. So they don't have time for this extracurricular activity. I'm going to call it that. Leave it to us. We're privileged enough to do this,
Sure.
to work in the industry that we love. But people need leaders that are strong, that are going to take those stances, that are not going to get lobbied or sell out. So you don't have a price? You're not going to sell out?
Me?
Mm-hmm.
No, I would never. I want something better for my kids, and I probably could sell out, but
That'd
I
be
want something
awesome.
better for my kids, man. Like they're the ones that drive me. I want both my daughters to know that doesn't matter if they want to start a family, if they don't want to start it, they can do whatever the hell they want and with their lives. They can, live fulfilling lives. And then I want my son to know that, if he works hard, he can get whatever he wants to. Like those are the things that I want to show to them. And I mean, I don't know how much you follow me, but I work incredibly hard. And I do that because that's what I want to take down to them. So selling out will just teach them that all the hard work that I put in was a waste.
I think the political landscape is changing because now you see these labor stars rising up. Like you have Sean Fain, you have Sarah Nelson, Sean O'Brien. You have the hottest labor podcast in San Diego.
Hey, when we went to the picket line with the flight attendants this week, they reckoned literally when we showed up with my IATSE signs over there.
What airport did you go to?
San Diego.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. Somebody that we follow each other.
Sure.
Flight attendant, she came like, oh my God, can I take a picture with you guys? It was
so
like,
cool.
what the, like.
Well, I need you guys to come out to the
I was like,
Inland
well, yeah, let's do
Empire.
it.
Yeah.
Well, that's we love San Diego. We're
know.
everywhere. We're international.
Hey, I'm going to always stump for the Inland Empire.
Yeah.
When
That's
we
where he
win,
lives.
at least come to the party. Hey.
Ricardo lives in Hemet.
Oh, man.
Is that not Riverside County?
It is.
Oh, but that's not your district.
It's not my district.
It's not your district. Sorry, Ricardo. Yeah, you're fucked. My brother lives in what are other towns up there? Manatee, and then there's Whittier. No, is that Whittier?
It's Winchester.
Winchester. He lives in Winchester.
Okay.
Is that not you, Austin?
It's not my district.
Okay,
either.
gotcha.
Nobody in Riverside, huh?
I don't know anything about Riverside.
Well, come out. We'll show you a good time. Honestly, I love the thing about Riverside that's special is that it was the safe haven when people were leaving the rising costs of LA and Orange County. They were going to Riverside for an opportunity, and so we haven't kept up with that growth. But I still believe that it's there. There's so much potential in the Inland Empire, and that's why I'm going to stump for it. I'll be like, come out here, come meet us. Like, you're going to see that we're worth investing.
Well, there you go.
in.
Road trip.
Road trip. If you drove 8 hours, you can drive an hour and a half.
My back does hurt when I drive. Like I even have a little pillow right here.
A battle.
That's age, not driving. I'm just kidding.
That's everything.
I feel great, by the way.
Me too. I'm doing good.
Yeah, I don't know how Chris is 10 years older than me. He's like, I'm tell Chris, dude, come on. You're on your down. Sometimes I feel like it's me.
Hey, if I wake up, I'm still young. That's the way I look at it.
Yeah, but no, that's awesome. I love the idea that you're running. I think the Bernie movement in 2016 brought a bunch of us together. It's when I first got involved in politics. Before I got into labor, I was just a college student at SDSU doing Uber, Lyft, but I felt like a lot of different people came together. Even Marine friends of mine said, I would have voted for Bernie, but I fucking hate Hillary. And then so they voted for Trump. But they would have voted for Bernie, the socialist, the guy that's going to end America.
Because he was talking about the things that mattered.
Exactly.
He was talking about raising insurance costs. He was talking about things that mattered.
And spending that money here in the U.S. and that kind of stuff. So I think isolationism, I think it's a big thing in the Republican Party. And I fall into that a little bit, like everything that's going on in Gaza and Israel and then Ukraine and Russia. My mindset is more like, why don't we just keep, if we have all this money all of a sudden to write $100 billion for these wars, but we have San Diego, one of the nicest cities in the U.S., crumbling when it rains for 3 days straight, and then people are losing their houses, people dying. People died in San Diego.
Yeah.
That's crazy.
And you have crippling student loan debt. I myself have over $120,000. I'm going to just live with it for the rest of my life. As far as I'm concerned, I'm married to it.
So all right, we're fundraising for her.
I just got the tamale lady.
You can team up with her.
But I mean, pero that's what I was told I needed to do. I came here. My parents said, you got to get an education. That's the only way out. That's the only way out. And so I did exactly what I was told I was supposed to do. And what's crazy when I finished my master's degree is when I learned about water careers and I could have just gone through a trade apprenticeship to enter the water industry. Zero debt. Which is why I'm a huge proponent of project labor agreements and community workforce agreements.
Project labor agreements.
But I mean, and so it's crippling us. you don't think $60 billion could handle that? But no, instead it's going to kill brown people across the world.
Thanks for joining us. We appreciate you coming down from Riverside.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. Any last words for our audience? They're union people. They're union people. All we talk is about unions, and they're active. So do you have any kind of message for them ending this great episode that we just had? You are running for County Board of Supervisors in Riverside County. Any last words?
Yeah, absolutely. Because I'm your first candidate, I'm just going to do the regular stump. We have 2 weeks.
In the studio.
In the studio.
we have
studio. Okay, in the studio. I'm the election is March 5th. Make sure to vote Gracie Torres. I am the only union member running. I'm the only person that, again, you don't have to lobby. I'm going to take care of working families because I am a working family. But really, like, take a minute to get to know me. Visit GracieTorres.com. Follow me at Gracie Torres on Twitter, Instagram, and Facebook. But you know what? Thank you guys so much for having me. These conversations are important. Again, because we're being distracted by too much while we're hurting. We're hurting, and so to know that there is a coalition, that there is a group of people that understands how we're feeling, is only going to get us to a better place, countywide, nationwide. Because we're all here just to live a good life, retire in peace, get paid in work in dignity, and raise our families where we want to live. So thank you for having me.
Amen.
Cool. Thank you. Real quick, can I ask you for something?
Sure.
Can you say Union or Bust is the hottest labor podcast in San Diego?
Oh God, slow down. Union or Bust is the hottest labor podcast of San Diego.
Perfect.
How can I say it without the question mark? All right.
Yeah. Say it with a question mark.
Yeah.
That'd be funny.
Is
yeah.
it?
I don't know. Yeah.
Union or Boss is the hottest labor podcast in San Diego.
Bam.
New
And
commercial.
soon Riverside County.
Oh, shit. We're expanding.
Yeah, we just expanded.
Yeah.
Hey, you got your co-host out of Riverside if you're
That
ready.
was awesome.